Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be building a budget 5-inch mini quad. So let's get straight into it. First off, I'm going to go over all the components I'm going to be using, and then after that I'll just start building, and then I'll let the camera record. I'm going to try to speed it up a couple places that it's just repetition, like doing the motors, that kind of thing. So let's get straight into it. First off, we have the ready-made RC frame. This is the Strix frame that they make, the Screech. And this frame is very nice. It's only $29, and for the quality, I feel like it's one of the best, if not the best, FPV frames out there for the price. So that's what I'm going to be using. I've been using this frame for about 2 years so far, or 3 years, somewhere in there, and I love it. And then next off, we're going to be using the Zing motors. These are 2207 2450 kV motors, so that's what we're going to be using. And then for our all-in-one ESC, we're going to be using the Mini Reaper from Fox here. So that's what we're going to be using for the ESC. And then next we have the flight controller. This one is the flight controller that Fox here sells. So we're going to be using that flight controller. And then for our video transmitter, we're going to be using the Unify Pro. So that's what I'm going to be using, the TBS Team Black Sheep Unify Pro. And then also we're going to be using this Falcor 2. This is made by Fox here, and the reason why I'm using the 2 is because I had one laying around. I think there is a 3 out by now, but I'm going to be using Fox here Falcor 2. And then for our antenna, going into our Team Black Sheep Unify Pro, we're going to be using the small Fox here Lollipop, and that plugs straight in there, so that'll work good. And then for our receiver, we're going to be using the Team Black Sheep Crossfire Nano RX. That's what we're going to be using. I'm not going to be using the regular wire on this thing. I'm actually going to be sticking on this small Immortal T made by Rush FPV. So that's what I'm going to be using on that. And then one last thing, this is a session mount, and Ready Made RC sells this on their website, and it's made for the Screech frame. So that's what we're going to be using. I'm going to quickly go over the prices on these so you can kind of see the breakdown of the price. This frame right here is $29.99, so that's pretty cheap for a FPV good quality frame. So good price on that. And then these motors right here, the Zing motors, they're $19.99 per motor, so that makes you at $79.96 total for 4 of them. And then your ESC, all-in-one ESC here that we're going to be using is $59.99. And then our flight controller that we're going to be using is $29.90, so that is a good price there. And then the Falcor is $36.99, I believe. So the Lollipop that you get, you'll get 2 in a set. Those are $19.99, so it's about 10 bucks a piece. You will have one extra because you won't be using both on the quad. The TBS Unify Pro is $29.95, so that's the price, about 30 bucks on that. Your TBS Crossfire RX, that is $24.95. And then this antenna right here, the Mini Immortal T, is $2.40, so not bad on that. And then one other thing is a session mount. That Ready Made RC sells for $9.99, so not bad price on that. And so everything included, if you buy everything at asking price, it's going to cost you, I figured up, a total of $323. So not too bad. A long time ago, when I first got into FPV, 5-inch mini quad would cost you about 500 to 550 bucks. So quite a considerable amount cheaper now, and a lot of these products here are a lot better than we used to have. Let's get straight into building. Okay, first off, we're going to go ahead and put our little grommets and the ESC, all-in-one ESC. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use the bigger grommets that they send with it, and you're going to want to put the bigger side on the bottom so the ESC does not touch the carbon fiber and Mega Fire. So let's go ahead and get all those installed real quick here. Okay, now that we got all those installed, you can see I like mounting mine backwards, so my XT60 comes out the front instead. And also another thing is I'm using these little nylon standoffs because I didn't have screws long enough. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to buy these longer screws, and I will tell you the measurement on those here. The screws I had, these little silver ones, were 20 millimeters. The ones you're going to want to get are 25 millimeters. I got a set on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. So that's what you're going to want to have to stick all the way up through. So you can see I'm changing them out here. The ones I'm taking out are 20 millimeters, and the ones that you want to put in are 25 millimeters long. So that's what you're going to want to put in, and that way it will go all the way through the ESC and up through the flight controller also, so you won't have those little plastic standoffs or nylon standoffs breaking off. You can also see I'm holding something in here. What I'm holding is a little nylon nut just to keep that bolt from moving around. So I put that in between the very bottom plate and the bottom plate. Okay, now that we got the longer screws installed, let's go ahead and tin up all the pads that we have on our all-in-one ESC. First of all, I'm just tinning up the XT60 place for where it's going to be connected to, and then all the motor pads. So let's go ahead and tin all of those real quick here. And then one other thing is, because I like mounting it out the front, my one wire is going to be a little bit shorter than the other, and the furthest one away is going to be my positive. The other one's going to be my ground, and it's going to just need to be a little bit shorter. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going ahead and cutting that, making it a little bit shorter, and then tinning both of these to prep them for soldering on the all-in-one ESC. Okay, so now that we got the wires tinned, let's go ahead and get them soldered on. First off is the ground, and I've never seen this big a wire on an XT60. The wire they used is huge, and it's a little bit difficult to solder on, so take your time, and it's going to take a good amount of heat to get that soldered on. And I apologize for my video quality not being the best. I had my camera recording here and it was not quite in focus, it looked like, and so sorry about it not being the best there. As you can see, I like wrapping my XT30 around the side, or XT60 around the side, so then it gets out of the props. So that is the front where the XT60 is coming out, and then wrapping around to the back. Now that we got the XT60 put on, let's go ahead and get each motor out and get the motors put on. And now let's go ahead and get the tape put around our motor wires. I like mine sitting flat, so take some time and get those nice and looking good, and then we'll be on to the next step. And In the next step, we're just going to measure our wires and go ahead and cut each one of them. And now we're just going to prep them for tinning real quick. And now I don't use a helping hand to tin the motor wires. Seems like it's pretty easy just to tin them real fast and be done with it. I don't personally use a helping hand to tin my motor wires. Seems pretty easy just to do it without it. Okay, now that we got the motor wires all tinned, let's get them out of the way so they won't be in the way while we solder on the other motor. You can see I'm kind of working around the standoffs there in that first motor. I went ahead and took off all the standoffs so it'd be a little bit easier to solder onto the all-in-one ESC. Okay, perfect. We got all the motor wires soldered on, so we are all set on that. Next, we can just look at getting out our flight controller and seeing how that will mount. They just are plug and play, which is super nice. I got the Fox here, ESC and flight controller, so it's just plug and play real quick and easy. So what we're going to want to do is go ahead and install the bigger grommets on the flight controller, and have, how I ran mine is the bigger side of the grommet down towards the ESC. So that's how we're going to run that. And then I like running some nuts on top of there just so the flight controller doesn't come off mid-flight, say you're flying over water and makes you crash right into water. So just some security there. I put the nuts on very lightly on top of the flight controller. Next, we're going to go ahead and get out our camera and get that wired up. It's very easy how Foxer has it. They make all the wiring very simple. And I'm going to go ahead and put a diagram up here so you guys can see where you need to solder. The video isn't the best quality, so hopefully this diagram, if you can't see in the video, the diagram will help you know where you need to solder your wires to. And now we're just going to go ahead and tin all the little pads on the flight controller. You use pretty much every single one, so I would just go ahead and tin every single one. The only ones you don't use is the TX1 and then the RX5. So those are the only two that you don't use there on the right hand side. So I would go ahead and tin all of them. Now we're going to go ahead and tin the bottom pads there. Go ahead and get those ready for the camera and the VTX. So I already got my wires cut and everything and where I need them. So what we're going to need is we're going to need 4 motor wires. We're going to need the first one, which is the voltage, and that's going to be the red wire. Next one's going to be your ground. The Foxer camera comes with 2 black wires connected there, and I'm not sure why, I just cut the one off. That's going to be your ground there. And next one is going to be your video, and then the next one is going to be OSD, your camera control. So you only need 4 wires total going to your camera. The rest you can get rid of. So the first one I'm soldering here is going to be your 5 volt, and that's going to be all the way to the left there, and that is your red wire. And then next you're going to want to solder your ground up, and that's going to be your next one over besides your 5 volt. And then the next one you're going to want to do is the yellow wire, which is your signal. These are extremely hard to solder onto. Thankfully I've been soldering for quite a long time, so it wasn't too bad for me, but it is a little bit hard because the pads are very small. And then the next one we're going to solder on here is the OSD, the camera control. That I like running underneath the flight controller, so it makes my build super clean. And then that one's going to go on the next one up besides the RX5. So that is going to be the CC for camera control. Okay, now we got the camera wiring all soldered up, super easy and really nice fit there. So next we are going to move on to the VTX. So we're going to go ahead and tin up all the pads that we're going to need on the VTX here. And we're going to need 4 wires on the VTX as well. First off, we're going to solder to the first one right beside the MMC-X connector. That is your smart audio. Next is going to be your video signal wire, which is the yellow wire. And then next one over, you're going to skip one, and that is going to be your ground. And then we're going to go next to that, and that is going to be our voltage in. And then I just like sticking a little bit of double-sided sticky tape and then sticking that directly down on the frame. And you can see my wire switch colors here. That's because the purple one I had soldered on there wasn't quite long enough, so I had to switch it out to this green one that you can see here. And then we're going to run these directly under the board, and then they're going to solder onto the front there. Let's go ahead and prep these for soldering onto the FC. Okay, now that we got all those tinned, we're going to go ahead and solder them up here. First off, right beside the signal wire for the camera, you're going to have your 5 volt, which is going to the VTX, and then next over you're going to have your ground, which is your black wire, and then the next one over is going to be that yellow wire we soldered up, and that is going to be your VTX video signal. And then the last one is the green one, which is your smart audio, and that's going to go to that TX5. Okay, that was pretty easy. We got the video transmitter all ready and soldered up, and now we're just putting a little zip tie around the antenna so it does not rip the connection off. And now we got one more thing to go ahead and solder up, and that is our TBS Nano RX. So we're going to go ahead and get these wires ready and go ahead and get that soldered up also. And we're going to want to go ahead and tin all the pads on the RX there. And then we're going to want to go ahead and solder ground. Next over is going to be your 5 volt. And then channel 1. And then the channel 2. And then what I did with my antenna, I ran it through the frame, and so I can zip tie it right on the bottom there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and twist these wires up, make it a little bit cleaner. And then we have to put these wires under the board and around the other side so we can solder them up to the FC. I personally don't like any wires going on top of the FC. I like it to look clean, so that's why I like running all my wires under the board instead of on top. And then we're going to go ahead and prep these wires, getting them ready to solder onto the flight controller. So I have the diagram up here again. It's super simple. The very top there, you are going to want to go ahead and solder your signal, the RC. Next you're going to do the ground, a black wire, and then you're going to want to do the power. So that's going to go to the 5 volt, and then you're going to want to solder on the yellow wire to the RSSI. And then after we got that soldered up, we're good to go ahead and plug back in the ESC to the flight controller. And let's go ahead and get our TPU mounts put on our camera so we can go ahead and get the camera mounted and plugged in here. And it never hurts to double check your wiring to make sure everything looks good on that. And this is a handy thing to have in your bag, a smoke stopper. Always use that for first plugins. And then let's go ahead and test this thing out to make sure it works good. Yep, everything's working good. So let's go ahead and get our GoPro TPU mount put together. This one is a little bit of a pain to put together because you have to put these little standoffs inside the TPU. So you kind of have to push pretty hard. And then you put one in the bottom, one in the top, and just make sure you don't accidentally get your fingers because that could hurt really bad. Okay, now we got the GoPro mount put all together. Just making sure everything is good here. Let's go ahead and put some UMA grip on the top plate here. Definitely the best battery grip there is out there. You should definitely buy some of this stuff if you don't have any. Let's go ahead and get our straps put through the top plate there and go ahead and make sure all those are run nicely. I like my straps going opposite ways. Just keeps the battery on there better, I feel like. So that's how I like mine run. Let's go ahead and get the top plate put on. And then I would definitely recommend running some longer screws in the TPU mount because you do not want your GoPro flying off mid-flight. So you can see here when I screw down these screws on the TPU mount that the back side doesn't go all the way flush to the frame. The reason for that is because the camera angle on the TPU mount that Radiometer RC sells is very high angle. I think it's like 30-35 degrees, and I like mine a little bit lower. So I go ahead and stick 2 nylon nuts under each side, makes it less of a degree of an angle, and so it captures more of the ground instead of the sky, which I like personally. Okay, we finally got it built, and now we're ready to go test it out, go fly. First I gotta get it hooked up to Betaflight and change the things I need to change, and also hook it up to my Tango 2. So we are gonna go ahead and do that, and then next video I'm gonna do a maiden flight of this flight controller because this is a new Foxeer flight controller and their ESC, so I'm pretty excited about this. It's pretty much all new equipment I've never used before, so I'm anxious to see how it works. And if you guys are interested in seeing what all I have to do on Betaflight, let me know. I can also post a video on that, but I think I'm not going to do it in here because it's going to make this video super long. I know it's already long, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this and hopefully it was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.